Why do people act the way they do? Why do some people stay calm under pressure, while others react emotionally? Why do we repeat habits we know are not helpful, even when we want to change? Human behavior can seem confusing, but it follows patterns. And once you understand those patterns, life becomes easier to navigate. Welcome to Psychomotive. In today's video, we're breaking down human behavior in a simple, practical way. No complicated language, no extreme theories. Just clear psychology you can actually understand and use. Stay with us until the end, because the final section shows how understanding human behavior can improve your decisions, relationships, and daily life. Let's begin. What is human behavior? Human behavior is everything people do consciously and unconsciously. It includes how we think, how we react, how we make decisions, how we form habits, how we interact with others. Behavior is not random. Even when actions seem unpredictable, they are influenced by past experiences, emotions, environment, learned patterns. Understanding behavior means understanding why people do what they do, including yourself. The biggest misunderstanding about behavior. Most people believe behavior is driven by personality. They say things like, "That's just how I am." Some people are born that way. You can't change behavior. But psychology shows something important. Behavior is often shaped more by situation than personality. This means change the situation, behavior changes, change the environment, habits shift. This is powerful because it means behavior is flexible, not fixed. The role of the brain in behavior. Your brain's main goal is not happiness. Its main goal is efficiency and safety. That's why the brain prefers familiar patterns. It avoids uncertainty. It repeats what feels predictable. Most behavior is automated. Habits, reactions, and routines save mental energy. Understanding this helps explain why change feels uncomfortable, why new habits feel difficult at first, why people resist unfamiliar situations, conscious versus unconscious actions. Only a small percentage of behavior is fully conscious. Most actions happen automatically. Examples: how you respond to stress, how you react to feedback, how you spend free time. These behaviors are learned through repetition. Once a behavior is repeated enough times, the brain labels it as normal. That's why awareness is the first step to change. Why people repeat the same patterns. People don't repeat habits because they enjoy them. They repeat habits because the brain recognizes them as safe. Even unhelpful patterns can feel familiar. The brain prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar improvement. This explains why people often stay in routines longer than they should. Understanding this creates empathy for yourself and others. Core driver. Number 1. Emotion. Emotion plays a huge role in behavior. People don't act based on logic alone. They act based on how something feels. Emotions influence decisions, communication, motivation. Even when people believe they're being rational, emotions are often guiding the choice. Behavior becomes clearer when you understand emotional triggers. Core driver. Number 2. Habit. Habits reduce thinking effort. Once a behavior becomes a habit, it requires less energy to repeat than to change. That's why people follow routines automatically. Change feels draining. Consistency shapes identity. Habits are the foundation of behavior. Core driver. Number 3. Environment. Environment shapes behavior more than willpower. Simple examples. Food choices change based on availability. Focus changes based on surroundings. Mood changes based on space. The environment sends constant signals to the brain. Change the signals, and behavior adjusts naturally. Why this knowledge matters? When you understand behavior, you stop blaming yourself. You stop judging others quickly. You make smarter decisions. You begin to work with psychology, not against it. This knowledge helps in personal growth, productivity, relationships, long-term habits, Retention bridge. Very important. In the next part, we'll explore why people make decisions that don't make sense, how habits are formed and broken, why motivation comes and goes. Don't skip part 2. This is where behavior patterns become clear. In part 1, we learned something critical. Human behavior is not random. It follows patterns shaped by emotion, habit, and environment. Now comes the most important question. Why do people make decisions that don't seem logical? Why do smart people make poor choices? Why do people delay action even when they know what to do? This is where psychology becomes powerful. Let's continue. Why humans don't always act logically? Humans are not logic-first creatures. We are emotion-first, logic second. The brain evolved to help us survive, not to analyze perfectly. That's why decisions are often fast, emotional, based on past experiences. Logic usually comes after the decision, not before. The two systems of the brain. Psychologists describe decision-making using two systems. System 1, fast mode, automatic, emotional, habit-based, requires little effort. This system controls immediate reactions, routine decisions, emotional responses. System 2, slow mode, analytical, thoughtful, requires effort, uses logic. Most daily behavior is controlled by System 1. System 2 only activates when necessary. That's why people often react before thinking. Why quick decisions feel right. Quick decisions feel comfortable because they use less mental energy. They rely on familiar patterns. They reduce uncertainty. The brain prefers certainty over accuracy. Even an imperfect answer feels better than uncertainty. This explains why people often choose familiar options, comfortable routines, predictable outcomes, how past experiences shape current behavior. Every experience leaves a psychological imprint. Your brain constantly asks, have I experienced something like this before? If yes, it reuses the old response. This saves time and energy. That's why childhood experiences influence adult reactions. Past failures affect confidence. Positive reinforcement strengthens behavior. Behavior is memory in action. Why people resist change? Change threatens predictability. Even positive change introduces uncertainty. The brain interprets uncertainty as potential risk. That's why people delay starting new habits. Growth feels uncomfortable. Comfort zones are difficult to leave. Resistance is not weakness. It's a survival response. Motivation. Why it comes and goes. Motivation is not constant. It depends on emotional state, energy levels, immediate rewards. Motivation works best at the start of change, not the middle. That's why relying on motivation alone leads to inconsistency. Successful behavior change depends on systems, not feelings. Habit formation. How behavior becomes automatic. Every habit follows a simple loop. Cue a trigger. Action. The behavior, reward, a feeling or result. Once the brain recognizes a reward, it remembers the loop. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic. This applies to productivity habits, media consumption, emotional reactions. Understanding this loop gives you control. Why willpower is limited. Willpower is a resource, not a personality trait. It decreases when you're tired, you're stressed, you make too many decisions. That's why people struggle with consistency later in the day. Smart behavior design reduces reliance on willpower. How environment controls decisions. Environment silently shapes behavior. Examples. Placement influences choice. Visibility increases action. Convenience drives habits. People often believe they choose freely. In reality, the environment suggests the choice. Designing your environment is more effective than forcing discipline. Social influence on behavior. Humans are social learners. We naturally observe and imitate others. This helps explain trends, group behavior, social norms. People adjust behavior to fit in, avoid discomfort, gain acceptance, Social context shapes decisions more than personal preference. Why people follow the crowd? Following others reduces decision pressure. If many people do something, the brain assumes it's safe. This is called social proof. It's why popular ideas spread fast, opinions shift in groups, behavior aligns with majority actions. Awareness of this helps independent thinking. Emotional triggers and behavior. Emotions are signals, not commands. But many people treat them as instructions. When emotion rises, logical thinking decreases, reaction speed increases, habitual behavior takes over. Understanding emotional triggers helps regulate reactions. Why self-awareness changes behavior? Awareness interrupts automatic patterns. Once you notice a habit, you create a pause, you regain choice, you weaken automation. Self-awareness is the gateway to intentional behavior. Practical insight. Number 1. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" ask, "What situation is creating this behavior?" This shift removes self-blame and creates solutions. Retention bridge. Critical. In part 3, we'll explore how emotions influence long-term habits, why some people stay consistent while others don't, how small changes create massive behavioral shifts. Part 3 connects psychology to real-life transformation. Human behavior is not random. Most of what we do every day is influenced by patterns we are barely aware of. In fact, psychology shows that much of human behavior operates on autopilot. We like to believe that we consciously choose how we act. But in reality, our environment, past experiences, and mental shortcuts quietly guide our decisions. Let's break this down. The power of habits in human behavior. One of the strongest forces shaping behavior is habit. Habits exist because the brain is designed to save energy. When an action is repeated often enough, the brain turns it into an automatic routine. This is why you may unlock your phone without thinking. You may react emotionally before reasoning. You may repeat behaviors even when you want to change. The brain prefers familiarity over effort. From a psychological perspective, habits are not signs of weakness. They are signs of efficiency. Human behavior becomes predictable when habits take control. This explains why change feels difficult, not because change is impossible, but because the brain resists breaking familiar patterns, emotional triggers, and automatic reactions. Another major influence on human behavior is emotion. Emotions act faster than logic. When something triggers fear, excitement, frustration, or comfort, the emotional brain responds first. Logical thinking comes later. This is why people sometimes say things they regret, avoid situations without clear reasons, make quick decisions under pressure. The emotional system exists to protect us, not to analyze everything deeply. From an evolutionary standpoint, quick reactions increase survival. But in modern life, this can create misunderstandings and impulsive behavior. Understanding this helps us become less judgmental of ourselves and others. Behavior is often emotional before it is rational. The role of past experiences. Human behavior is heavily shaped by memory. Not just conscious memory, but emotional memory. Your brain remembers what felt rewarding, what felt uncomfortable, what felt safe. Over time, these memories create internal rules such as avoid situations like this. This feels familiar, so it must be safe. This worked before, do it again. Even if the situation has changed, the brain still uses old data. This explains why two people can react very differently to the same situation. Behavior is not just about the present moment. It is a response shaped by past emotional learning, social influence, and human behavior. Humans are social by nature. Our behavior changes depending on who we are around. Psychology shows that people often adjust opinions to fit a group, mirror body language unconsciously, Change tone and energy based on social context. This happens because belonging feels safe. The brain associates social acceptance with survival. As a result, behavior can shift without conscious awareness. This does not mean people are fake. It means humans are adaptive. Understanding social influence helps explain peer pressure, group behavior, why confidence changes in different environments. Human behavior is flexible, not fixed. Why awareness changes behavior. Here's something important. The moment you become aware of behavior, you gain influence over it. Psychology consistently shows that awareness interrupts autopilot mode. When you notice your emotional reaction, your habitual response, your automatic thought, you create a pause. That pause is powerful. It allows choice instead of reaction. This is why understanding behavior is not just informative. It is transformative. Human behavior is context dependent. People often label behavior as good or bad. But psychology looks at behavior differently. Behavior is context dependent. What works in one environment may fail in another. What feels confident in one setting may feel uncomfortable elsewhere. Understanding this reduces self-criticism. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" a better question is, what situation is influencing this behavior? This shift in perspective builds self-understanding instead of frustration. The illusion of control. One of the most interesting psychological insights is this. Humans often overestimate how much control they have over behavior. We believe we make decisions independently, but many decisions are influenced by mood, timing, environment, social cues. This does not mean free will does not exist. It means behavior is shaped by more factors than we realize. Recognizing this leads to humility, patience, and better self-management. Why understanding behavior improves life. When you understand human behavior, communication improves, conflict decreases, self-confidence increases, emotional reactions feel less overwhelming. You stop taking everything personally. You begin responding instead of reacting. This understanding creates emotional intelligence, one of the most valuable skills in modern life. Transition to the next section. So far, we've explored how habits shape behavior, how emotions influence reactions, how past experiences and social environments guide actions. In the next part, we will explore how to consciously influence human behavior, starting with your own. This is where understanding turns into practical power. How to influence and improve human behavior, starting with yourself. Understanding human behavior becomes truly powerful when you learn how to influence it, especially your own. Psychology does not teach control over others. It teaches self-awareness, choice, and intentional action. Let's explore how behavior can be reshaped in a healthy, realistic way. Behavior follows environment. One of the strongest psychological truths is this. Behavior follows environment more than motivation. People often wait to feel motivated before acting, but motivation is unstable. Instead, behavior changes faster when the environment changes. Examples. A clean workspace supports focus. A visible reminder supports consistency. A calm space supports emotional balance. The brain responds automatically to surroundings. When you design your environment intentionally, behavior improves naturally. You don't need more willpower. A new internal belief. This is who I am. Confidence, discipline, and consistency are results of identity, not pressure. You don't become confident first. You act consistently first, and confidence follows. Awareness before control. You cannot change behavior, you don't notice. Awareness is the foundation. Before trying to fix behavior, observe it. When does it happen? What triggers it? What emotion comes before it? This removes judgment. Behavior is not a personal failure. It is information. Once behavior is understood, change becomes practical instead of emotional. Why do people act the way they do? Replace, don't remove. Psychology teaches an important rule. Behavior is easier to replace than remove. The brain resists empty space. If you remove a behavior without replacing it, the brain will search for another familiar pattern. Instead, replace distraction with structure. Replace avoidance with small engagement. Replace emotional reactions with pauses. This keeps the brain comfortable while change occurs. Sustainable change is gradual, not forced. Consistency beats intensity. One of the biggest misconceptions is that change requires extreme effort. Psychology proves the opposite. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Small actions repeated daily strengthen neural pathways, build trust with yourself, reduce resistance. This is why habits shape behavior more effectively than motivation. Consistency trains the brain to feel safe with change. Self-compassion improves behavior. Harsh self-criticism does not improve behavior. It increases stress and resistance. Psychology shows that self-compassion improves learning, resilience, and follow-through. When mistakes happen, observe them, learn from them, adjust without punishment. Growth happens faster when the mind feels supported. Human behavior responds better to understanding than pressure. Behavior change is not linear. Progress is rarely straight. There will be good days, neutral days, challenging days. This does not mean failure. It means the brain is adapting. Behavior change happens in waves, not lines. Understanding this prevents frustration and builds patience. Why understanding human behavior matters. When you understand behavior, you communicate better, you react less emotionally, you lead with clarity, you improve relationships, you stop fighting your mind, you start working with it. This understanding creates emotional intelligence, a skill more valuable than raw talent. Final perspective. Human behavior is not random. It is patterned, it is learned, and it is adaptable. You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are responding to patterns that can be reshaped with awareness and intention. Understanding behavior gives you freedom, not control over others, but clarity within yourself. Closing. Narration friendly. Understanding human behavior helps you navigate life with awareness instead of reaction. When you understand why people act the way they do, including yourself, everything becomes clearer. If you found value in this breakdown, subscribe for more psychology-based content that helps you grow with clarity and confidence. Thank you for watching.